All right, all right, all right. Here we go. All right. Well, I'm just going to give some time for people. I'm going to go ahead and just give some time for people to join us. Hello, everybody. Dan Pants. Kitty Cat, hi. Hey, Mordecai. All right, welcome, everybody. So we're just going to give time for people, Morning Wyatt, to jump in on this stream. So we're going to be taking a sneak peek of 2020. I don't want to get into everything yet until we just give a couple more minutes for people to jump in here and be part of this. What's going on, Polysculpt? Right, so Dr. Depresso, how's it going? So I'm excited to be with you guys today to show you some stuff that's in obviously our ZBrush 2020 that is coming out next week. So I'm sure you're all excited for that. For those that are existing users, I'm going to share some information with you today as well. So hopefully this will be a fun little stream for you. And keep in mind that we'll be doing streams actually at this time, Thursday as well. As you can see, there's also Solomon Blair is going to be going next Thursday at 11 a.m., the 14th. And then J. Joseph We Trust Drust is going to be going November 21st on Thursday at 11 a.m. So we're going to do 3 streams here for you. So you can take as much away as you can from us about the new version and the new features. So I'm assuming everyone's hearing me just fine and dandy. I would say yes. Everyone can hear me? With your cameras, you're going to hide the dancing quake. Yeah, dressed from his backyard, right? That's an old joke that's still alive. It gets resuscitated every now and then. Okay, so this is going to be a fun one. Again, I'm just giving time for people to jump in this stream. All right, so because obviously this is a big one because I'm going to be sneak peeking our upcoming version, which is ZBrush 2020. Right, so very excited. Thank you for tuning in. For those watching, we got people tuning in from all over the world. We got people tuning in on different platforms. Hey, Thomas, how you doing? John, hi. Dan Pants. That's a great name, Dan Pants. I like that. So I saw a bunch of people tuning in. Hey, Timothy. Great to have you in here. So I want to start first just quickly. Obviously, there are some people here that didn't even know that 2020 was coming out. So you can currently right now go see the features and some videos, and I'm actually going to be using all the models that were made to make these videos that we put together. I'm going to be using a lot of these models and calling out these artists that were also, some of them were part of our beta team as well. So if you want to go to the URL pixologic.com/features, in fact here I'll just copy and paste that for you so you guys have it. So in case you don't know, there you go. Is J. Dress Joseph here? I see that. Sammy, how's it going? So you go to this page, we'll break down a little bit about what we have going on here. I'm not going to be covering everything today. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. So this is why we're also splitting this up into multiple days across multiple weeks. So I'm going to be focused on some certain features for sure in this stream. Joseph and Solomon are going to be focusing on some other features as well. But all 3 of us are going to probably have certain features that will overlap for sure. So I'm definitely going to be taking a look at this feature, which I'm super excited about. This is a Morph UV. I think this is going to be a big one for you all. It's going to create some very cool ways to sculpt and some amazing, awesome techniques. So I'm going to be looking at this. The extractor brush, I'm going to briefly touch on this. Joseph's going to dive a lot more into this, and Solomon, especially Joseph. This is like one of his things. I'm going to touch briefly on the history recall, what you can do with this. If we have time, I'll bring up this model from Polygon, and I'll show you just exactly what's happening here as well. I'm going to show the history recall in certain ways as well. This is Joseph's baby right here. He was very excited. He's very excited for this. So this is an infinite depth. So right now, obviously, we're showing move infinite depth, but this particular feature is going to be able to be used across any sculpting brush. So this is a big one. I know Joseph was very excited for us to put that in there. I'm going to be touching on this, which is the polypaint adjust color and the texturing adjust color. It's a great little new way of adjusting your colors right within inside of ZBrush. I will be going into this in the stream. And then we have a bunch of 3D printing stuff. So we've got wall thicknesses now. So you can analyze the wall thickness and adjust your model and have an update. We got real-time draft analysis, which I will be pulling this John Brown model up and going through that. We also have surface calculating surface area, which has also been, that's very important for those people who are doing large mass things like, hey, I need to use fiberglass, or I'm a bronze, or I need to know the surface area of something. So we're going to be covering that. I'm going to be looking at cam view as well, just to give you guys an understanding what cam view is. Silhouette view. In fact, this is also very useful, I found, for 3D printing as well. Some stuff I was just doing for printing. It was a great way for me to pull a model up and see any kind of opening and gaps within my model that I needed to close out. So it was really cool for that as well. So this can do multiple things. I'm going to touch on this. We've got ZZoo, which there's going to be 75 plus new Z-Sphere mannequins that are all animals. So this is a great way for you all to, if you ever had to create some kind of animal in your workflows, hopefully there's an animal there for you now to start with. So we'll be going to that. The ever popular 2.5D deco brush, right? So this, we knew it was a popular feature, but it was 2.5D, so we've kind of taken that feature and now made it in 3D and looked at a different approach to it. So hopefully this is going to be giving you guys some great, I know Druss, this is a big one for him too. He was a big fan of this back in the day before he even was working at Pixologic, and I'm sure many of you that are existing users uses the 2.5D deco brush a lot. So we now have that in 2D. Okay, so this is a really nice feature. And then some other notes. We've consolidated the importing, exporting. So now you're going to be able to have one button to do that. There's a painting mode. There's a back and forth mode. Druss is going to also really dive into that, as long as Solomon. The paint opacity. So again, we're going to be touching on certain features here and there. I'm going to be focusing on more like the silhouette, cam view. I'm going to look at the real-time draft analysis. We're going to look at the color adjusting ability. We're going to touch on the history recall, and then we're going to be looking at the Morph UV. So that's kind of what I'm going to be really diving into. Before we dive back into the application, I do want to let everybody know that currently we have a release pricing happening here. So ZBrush itself, we've done an introduction pricing to celebrate the release of ZBrush 2020. So for those that don't currently own ZBrush, you are now able to get the perpetual license for $795. This sale is already happening, so you can go purchase right now, and you'll get ZBrush 2019 at this price, and then 2020 is a free upgrade. So it'll be a free upgrade for all of you. So every single person that's in here right now that owns ZBrush, you're getting a free upgrade to 2020, of course. For those that don't own ZBrush yet, here's a great opportunity to jump in. You got it for $795. Normally it's $895. We're also doing a special promotion for the subscriptions. So your first payment for a 6-month is going to be $139.95. After that, it's $179.95. And then month-to-month subscription, your first month will be $29.95, and then thereafter it's $39.95. And for those that are ZBrush Core users, you can upgrade to ZBrush for $745. So you would have both ZBrush Core and full version of ZBrush. So for those that are using the Core version, we're giving an extra $50 off, so you can actually get into ZBrush, the full version, for $745. So I just wanted to highlight some of these promotions that we have going on as well, because this sale is happening right now. You don't have to wait for 2020 to come out, and 2020 will be released next Tuesday, which is November 12th. So get ready. That's when you're going to be able to get your hands on it. And then, of course, Solomon's stream will be 2 days after that, on the Thursday, the 14th, and then Joseph will be following up after that. So I really wanted to make sure everybody was aware of those promotions that we have going on. So let's get into this, all right? I want to give a shout out and thank you to a certain model, Johnny Rampant. This is his model. So for those that don't know his work, here's his work on ZBrush Central. So his ZBrush Central name is J Rampant. So this is some of the work that he's posted on ZBrush Central and that he's done in the past. So I wanted to let you know and say thank you again for Johnny for sharing this model with me so that I can use it for the videos and we can use it for images. And now I'm using it in the stream. Right, and then of course he has an art station for those as well. This is his art station, so you can reach out to him, especially if you like the model that I'm messing around with, working with here. Okay, so this is what we have here as well. So I'm going to get the one question right out of the way. Right now I see someone's asking about Peel UV. It is currently still in development. That's all I can share with you about Peel. It's still in development. So let's get into this. So I want to start looking at this model. So Johnny poly painted this model, right, and sculpted this model actually in the beta. And now as an artist, I maybe want to go make some changes here, right? And I want to do a quick call out to the new cam view feature. You can see right here, up here in the top right, I'm actually looking at the back of the head. So this feature is looking at what is the default setting in a world is where the camera is supposed to look. So actually, this model that Johnny sculpted is actually backwards in the world. So what I mean by that is when Johnny made this, he was looking at it from behind instead of looking at it front. So this is what the cam view is now going to help you all with. You'll know by looking at this, you'll know that, hey, I'm looking at forward world, right? And we'll get into this later, but I just wanted to call out because it's a great example of showing this. So let's get into adjusting these colors. Okay. Oh, yeah, my camera's hiding that. So here, let me move this. Oops. Hold on. Sorry. I just noticed that my webcam is hiding that. Where to put me now? All right, there we go. So again, let me just go through this again so you guys can see this cam view in the top right here. You can see it's looking at the back of the head. And as I rotate his model, you see it's updating and looking at the different views. And again, this is about showing you where the default world space would be. Okay, so my face was hiding it and now it's not. Right, so there you go. I'm so used to putting in the top right corner when I do streams that it totally didn't even slip my mind. So that's on Paul. That's an ABBP right there. That's an ABBP. All right, so what we're going to be able to do now is adjust these colors. So what I'm going to do is in the tool palette, I'm going to go into my poly paint section, and you're going to see there's a bunch of new features here. You've got a from draft, you've got from thickness, and then you've got adjust colors. Okay, so I'm going to click on this little button right here, and a new menu will pop up. So you see the current selected subtool will jump into a new menu, and we've got all these settings here now that we're going to be able to play with. Okay, so I'm just going to say I'm going to cancel that. And what I want to play with, obviously, is his lizard. So I'm going to select that lizard, and then we're going to go into adjust color. And now you can see we have his lizard in here. We can frame the model, of course. I can use all the same navigation that we have inside of ZBrush. So this is just the ZBrush navigation that we have in here. So let's take a look at kind of what we can do here. Right, so you can see on the bottom we've got a bunch of settings here. We have the ability to adjust hues, intensity, contrast, and gamma. So to keep it simple, right, we can just start saying I could just adjust my hue, and it's that simple. Again, this is poly paint, right, that Johnny's done to this. So I'm just having a quick adjustment of that. I can obviously address saturations, right, take away some saturation. It's, these sliders are pretty self-explanatory, right? So we have intensity control of just RGB, okay? And then I hit OK, and you can see everything updates, okay? And then now you've got this version, which is the poly paint being updated, right? So what's nice is there's some other things here that can be a lot of fun, all right? So let's undo this, just get back to his default, all right? And so I'm going to go ahead and hit adjust again, right? And I'm going to say, reset everything. So I'm back to normal, right? So as you can see, when I relaunched this, it still remembered what I was messing with and playing with, which is great because as I was changing these, I might want to only go do little tweaks, and we want to remember that. So what we're going to be able to do is do some other things here, like I can hide materials, so I can really just only look at the flat color of this, which is nice to be able to do. And I can actually use the color itself as a masking feature. So I'm now just picking certain colors in his model, and you can see over here that that color is now picked. So, and I can obviously pick multiple colors. So I can grab here and say, the green and this purple are what's important to me that I want to adjust. And you can see everything now is masked off, right? So that it doesn't have that color. So you can see there's a simple mask here. So if we do just up here again in the top right, hide mask, you can see that there's parts of this mesh that are masked. Okay? And by default, I've got also inverse mask. So I can flip this actually, and now the green and the purple are what's masked, and everything else is good to go. So then as an artist, I can say, you know what, these stripes, I want to do a little something more with these stripes. So this is what we're going to be able to do. Just come in here and say, let's just adjust this, maybe let's make it be a little crazy. You know, and I'm going to hide the mask so I can see what that's doing with the existing colors that we have. Let's throw maybe a little more contrast in there. Always fun to play with some gamma. Oh yeah, there. Happy little trees. Happy little trees. Okay? So, oh, now my Pollen and Solomon are covering too. Yep, I got it. Thank you. All right, so let me move them now. All this stuff. Nameplates. Let me see. Oops. Hold on. I gotta move Solomon and Joseph now. I'm running out of space here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I have all these settings down here to start adjusting and messing around with things. Okay, so when I hit OK, of course now this is going to apply, and we're going to have this. So what I'm doing, of course, also at the same time is creating undos, right? So I'm creating various versions of this. So again, we're going to come back in here. I'm going to adjust and say, okay, I want to play with some more with this. Maybe let's start adding a hue. Let's even throw a tint on this. So right now I'm tinting with white, right? And I'm going to say, let's tint with something else. Let's tint with a yellow. Okay, that's just a little aggressive. A little aggressive. And let's keep that hue down. And so I'm adjusting now this right here, this color picking, right, is being controlled by this tint now right here. So I'm adding a little tint, and he's now fire red. Yes! Fire red. Now, so this is where I kind of want to touch on the new brush, which is our history recall now. Okay, so I've been making these little couple undo histories here. So we've got, in essence, a couple variations of this color. So what's going to be really nice about this is I'm going to want to pull some RGB. So I'm going to turn off Z sub. I'm going to turn my RGB intensity up all the way. And you can see right now there's just 3, right? So what I'm going to do now is hold the Control key and click on this very first undo history. And what that does is kind of marks it. Okay, and then now if you see, I can come back and I still got my other thing, my other version of this model where it's painted up, and we're having a good old time here. Okay, so what's nice about this particular brush is now looking for this marker point in the undo history. So of course we've only got 3. You guys would have possibly hundreds, if not thousands. And just so you know, projects save undo histories. So if tools don't save undo histories, but projects can. So when you guys go to the File menu here, this open right here and this Save, that's a project. And you see undo history is actually turned on right now in my version. So if I was to save a project, all this undo history would save, and when I load the model, I would get it back. So tools do not do that, right? So that's an important note, okay, because you're going to want to be able to play with this feature. Okay, so now that I have that marked, I'm going to come over here to the model. Let's go with a bigger brush size here. And let's go into a spot. And I'm going to say in here, I just want to bring back the original paint. Right? So now I'm actually bringing back some of that original color that Johnny did. Right? So I'm actually doing a blend now between certain undos. Right? So that's what I'm looking at here. I can, in essence, paint away what I've done already to Johnny's model. Sorry, Johnny, if you're watching. The disaster that is me that I've done. So you can see I can literally get rid of that paint. So it creates a nice workflow for us now that I can keep adjusting these colors, okay? And I can go back and forth with this, right? And Seagull, you can paint with layers. That is already possible. Okay? So yes, the undo history that you have from models from 2019, when you guys get 2020, yeah, that undo history carries over, right? There's now just this new addition having the ability where I can mark what I want, right? So this is now the version, and then now I have this version, right? And now I can come in here again and make more adjustments. But what's also very nice about this, and what I actually enjoy doing, is this also is a very great part, nice feature of this. So I'm going to let's clear all the mask here, okay? And then let's just mask him. So I'm just making a mask in the front part. So obviously none of this is masked, nothing here is masked. So I'm going to come in here and say my color adjust. And you can see there's a mask already here, right? So this is why we have the hide colors, right? And here we'll even do the hide materials. So this is pretty much what I've done to the model really quickly, right? Now, what's really nice about this is, as a user, you got to think of the times where I'm masking something off, and say I've already got some poly paint, of course, on here, and now I also want to use the mask with the paint. So this is where this feature is also extremely beneficial. You'll see here there are options here. There's an override, there's a mask, and then there's an unmask. Okay, so for example, if I go mask, okay, I'm telling it something different. I can say, let's drag this, right? And you can see I'm actually picking a color below, right? So this model still, even though we're hiding it, it still has the colors, right? So this is saying respect the mask I've made, and now on top of that, make a mask based upon the green color that I'm picking. So if we turn off the hide colors and hide material, we'll just keep the hide material. You can see the green is being picked, right? So that's becoming unmasked. Everything else is being masked, and then the mask section that I've brought into it is not being touched. So I have a double mask thing happening here right now. I've done a user-defined mask with my hand, and now I'm doing a color picking mask, okay? And then what we can also do with this, we can do an unmask, right? Which is now, this is only looking at the masked area. So again, if we hide our materials, let's hide our materials in color, you can see now only the area that I actually have masked now is even being adjusted. This is pretty cool, man. And then you can inverse it if you want to. Okay? And then so if I hit OK, right, I'm coming back, and then there is a mask on this model based upon what I sent to the adjust colors. Okay? So this is going to have the ability to really open up a lot of things for us. Okay? Because again, we're going to come back to this adjust color, and I can be looking at this in many different ways. So this creates a very fun and a great workflow. Okay, and then now, of course, because I've got this defaulted mask, okay, when we're going to make these adjustments now down here with like our RGB, right, you can see only the area that's not masked is being affected, right? So a lot of here, let's get rid of some of the green. Maybe let's get some of that green down. Let's make it real scary here. Oh, God. Sorry, Johnny. Just ruining his model now. Okay, and then there you go. And then of course this was still masked over here. So if we're clearing the mask, you can see that original painting green was done. And then let's not forget, if we're not liking what we get, there's nothing stopping us for using the history brush again, going back to maybe where we liked something, say like there, right? Holding control, tapping on that to make that a marker, and coming back to here, and again, I'm looking at just RGB of this, and then I'm painting this out. Like, this is a very great, fun workflow to start combining these features and working with these features across the board. So that's pretty much your adjust coloring. Okay, again, this is going to be found in your poly paint, and it's going to be this little button right here in your adjust colors. And a lot of this is obviously self-explanatory. You know, you got your intensity adjustments, you got your RGB adjustments. We'll have various colors. And again, the highlighting, guys, you're just clicking and dragging, and you can grab whatever color you want, right? And then just keep grabbing colors if you want to. And then you have the ability to do an inverse mask. You can blur right in here if you want to. So I'm adding a little bit of blurring now to my mask. And then just go through and now start making your adjustments. It's pretty handy. For those that really work with poly painting a lot, this is going to be awesome, especially, if you're concepting something out, you're not quite sure what you want. Do I want a little bit of some tint in here? And then you can just do some crazy stuff in here. That's pretty fun to just mess around with this. So now I'm got like 4 different variations here of this. Okay. So it doesn't stop there, okay? As this adjustment, having the ability to adjust poly paint, we also want to be able to adjust things like a texture. So what we've done is we've taken this and also have added this. I'm going to dock this in our texture palette. So if I'm selecting a texture, we're going to be able to adjust that as well. So we'll just grab a generic. I'm going to come to this. I'm going to show this in action, but I just want to kind of highlight this and show you that, hey, I can grab a texture, right? I'm just going to grab something colorful. It's got a bunch of different colors. And you can see right here, there's now an Adjust Colors button right here as well. So when I click on that, that opens up the texture. And you can see I can zoom in and out of that texture. I can move it around. And now I'm editing the texture itself. So I've got all these same controls here, right? So I can pick a certain color to mask out. I'm going to say, okay, let's pick those 2 colors and let's pick the red, right? And let's say only those 3 is what I want to mess with maybe the hue of, right? And now only those 3 colors, and then throw in some RGB intensity, right? So now I have the ability not only to mess with the poly paint, I'm also messing with the texture. And it's all the same controls here. So we kept this menu the same. You've got the same feeling, the same things going on throughout this. Of course, when I hit OK, right, we're going to be able to update that image. So before we dive into this deeper, okay, I want to switch to another model. So I want to switch to someone that is also a streamer of ours. Okay, so we have Shane Olson. I want to pull up one of his models. So for those that don't know Shane Olson, here's Shane Olson's information. I want to thank him again for sharing a model with me that I'm going to be using next here in this demo. So if you don't know, again, Shane Olson, there's his ArtStation as well. But he is a streamer, so for those that are obviously tuning in with us here all the time, I want to say thanks again for Shane. So I'm going to grab one of his models, and I'm going to kind of now start also doing a combination of this adjust color and adjust texture. And I want to introduce now Morph UV as well. So I've got this model of his. Okay, let's just go to a standard brush for now. And what I want to do now is I want to put a pattern on him. Okay, or him, her. Right, so he's done a beautiful model. He's got a beautiful stylistic character, right? So I'm going to select just the body, right? And so this is the only thing that I want to look at, all right? And now we've had in the UV map, we've always had this Morph UV. And what we've added here now is a bump slider. And you're going to see what that'll do for you. And we've added the capability now in UV layout mode, we are going to be able to sculpt and paint. And in the UV mode, when we do that, it's going to transfer back into the 3D mode. This one made me a little more giddy and put a big smile on my face because there's so much stuff that I personally like to do where I'm putting patterns and things on, okay? So we're going to do a combination of looking at this simple Morph UV this way, and then we're going to bring in that texture adjustment together, okay? So we're going to go ahead and hit Morph UV. Okay, and what that's doing now, when we hit that button, it's looking at the model, and then it's going to give me the morph version. Now, we have a little bit of, you can see a little bit of some detailing in there. That's what this bump slider is doing. Okay, so what's going on is he's got a little bit of sculptural detail happening where he's made some like little cut lines to accent certain parts of her body, right? And you can see that. Obviously, when we get into the next model, I'm going to show this with. This will definitely help you out more. Okay, so as an example, if I unmorph this again, okay, and say, you know what, I don't want any bump to show, I can knock this down to 0, hit Morph UV, and in essence, the only thing I'm really looking at now is the paint, right? And you can see the difference now. I don't see really any sculptural detail. And we've done that because during the development of this, there was times where the only thing I did want to look at was the paint. There were times where I needed to use the sculpting information to help me figure out where I'm going to paint, which you're going to see in the next model I have here. So let's just do this one, okay? And I'm going to go to my texture palette, right? And I want to import. So instead of using these textures here, I'm going to import a texture for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and say import. And I'm going to grab a texture that I have that I made for myself. Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous! Right? So what this is just a repeating flower pattern. Okay? So I want to do now, this is where this Morph UV thing comes in. This is where my mind, I like to call sometimes ZBrush like a cake because I'm fat. Or like an onion. And what I mean by that, there's layering that you can do. You, of course, don't have to do this, but you can do this, right? Where I'm now going to layer a couple features on top of themselves to make something happen really fast. All right? So, number one, I can now say, you know what? Let's add that to Spotlight. Okay? So now I can use Spotlight, right, over top. So I can adjust this image. I can say, let's adjust the intensity of this. Let's also come down here and let's repeat it. But let's repeat it equidistant. Right? So I'm just holding the shift key. And Christmas in a corner, people. Christmas here. I'm going to move this over here so you guys can see better. Christmas in a corner over here, right? So you can see you have tiling here. So I'm just either one, no matter one, tile V or tile H, right? You hold the shift key and we'll tile both at the same time. So that's pretty much what's happening here. I'm just tiling both at the same time. Okay? So what's nice about this is we're using this to start saying, okay, where do I want this to sit? Right? So I'm going to say, let's put this here. All right? I'm just going to move the dial over so you guys can see what I'm doing. The spotlight features are all through here. What I really like is this spotlight radius mode. So this is why we call it spotlight. So it's just like turning a dial, like an old school rotary phone. Oh man, it was a 9, not an 8. Oh, those were the days. No more just hit a button, delete a number. Okay, so what's going to happen here now is I've got Morph UV'd. I'm using Spotlight as an image to move it where I want to. I'm going to hit the Z key as in like ZBrush. You'll see my image, right? And I can hit the Z key and come back and say, you know what? I want this to have a spotlight radius to it, right? And I also want this image to have maybe opacity to it as well, right? So right here, I got to move this over. So see there's opacity settings here as well, right? So I have the ability in here to start messing around with this. I'm going to go with a smaller brush size. And you can see what Spotlight Radius is doing now. I can kind of just move my hand around so that texture's still there. And of course, for me, I can say, you know, the only thing I want now is RGB, right? And Z intensity. And then I can start painting this pattern right on the UV. Okay? So what I want to do, though, I'm going to undo this. And what we've done, not only have we put that ability to adjust colors in the texture, and not only have we put it in the painting, but there is new masking options. And the mask by color, there's actually a mask by polypaint now. So I can click this open, and you can see I get the same thing, except it doesn't have all the controls on the bottom, because this is just straight up, I want to use that feature now to mask. So to me, the orange part is what I want to change in this model. I'll leave the white alone, and I want to change the orange. So now I can grab this, right? And you see this is now masking out that color. Okay? So the white is staying unmasked, and the orange is famous. So I can obviously say inverse that, and now I've got the opposite. Right? So this is simple because there's only two colors, right? But you got to think about when we were talking about Johnny's model, he's got a bunch of colors happening. That's why we allowed you to have multiple color selecting. So now when I come back, this is obviously updating on the model, all right? And then now when I paint, right, it's only going, so I can go crazy, and it's only going in the orange area, which is great. And I'll go with a -100 focal shift because I want to just be straight up, give me that pattern. Okay, now, what's nice about this is obviously it's black and white, right, on white, right, because the rest of her body is all white, right? That's not what I want to do. Okay, so I have a texture in here. This is the texture I'm playing with. So what I want to do now is actually adjust this texture. Let's have a little fun with this now. Maybe let's play with some RGB. Let's bring back this. Let's throw some tint in here. I don't know, maybe put a blue. Green. Yeah, that looks good. Play with that. There you go. Maybe different color. Take away. Ooh, yeah. Oh, there. Happy little trees. Right? So I'm just sitting here playing, figuring out what is it do I really want, right? And throwing some maybe gamma change in there. Yeah, that looks good. Let's say that's good enough. Oh yeah, pink and green. Shane, it's what you've always wanted if you're in here. Okay? So I hit OK, right? And look what happens. The spotlight image is also updated. So this created a very fast time workflow where I've got the image, I'm editing it in here, but it's because it's linked in Spotlight, right? I have the ability to also do this here. So now, again, if I hit the Z key and now I'm painting, I'm now just painting that new version of this image, which is that wonderful pink and green, right? And so now the next step would be, all right, let's go back to the UV part, click Morph UV now, and when we come back, I've got the update, and if we look at Shane's model, now I've got this updated, only in that orange area where I wanted that pink and green flower pattern, right? So I made a combination kind of allowing myself to be able to mask certain areas, okay? And then I'm using color adjust on the texture to change things up. So let's not forget, everybody, we have the ability, right, to go back and undo history, right? And you can see you're walking backwards and everything, right? And I can go all the way back to before I made the model, right? Switch to something like the history recall. Again, make that marking point. Come back all the way to where there's the flowers, right? And again, start painting out maybe even the area of the flowers, right? So I can have a combination, I don't know, one leg's orange for whatever reason, okay? So this is something that you guys can also start doing. And of course, I'm making more undos. Okay, so this is a really great way of working. Now, let's take a look at maybe something a little more going on, a little more advanced. So, Jorah, I'm going to probably not pronounce your name correctly, so I apologize. So I'm going to pull up this model now, which was done by Jorah, or Juras, if you're in here. So he's got an awesome model. It's got all these, thinking about this now in the tattoos, you could lay this out flat, just paint the tattoos right on the face. But I wanted to do something with the leather jacket. Okay, so here's his post. It's been top rowed on ZBrush Central. So there's his ZBrush Central name. So everybody has that as well. And then, of course, he has an art station, right? So here's his art station as well. And then, so you have that information. So I'm going to pull his model up as well. And again, thank you for sharing this with us as well. Okay, so let me grab that model now. And what I want to do is here's my final result of just looking at what I did with the jacket. Okay, so I put the ZBrush logo, I've got the Pixologic logo on the back, I've got these white strips here with little stitching and so forth and so on, right? So let's pick up the model that has nothing on it, okay, which is just this jacket now, right? And what I want to do is start laying patterns on here. And I want to do some other things, okay, to go on through this. So what I want to do is maybe make something for this, because what I'm going to be doing is using the Morph UV. So let's go ahead and switch to another new feature, which is our extract brush. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Joseph and Solomon are going to dive deeper into it. And at that time, you guys will also have the version 2020 by the time they go, because again, this version's coming out next Tuesday, November 12th. Solomon's streams, you can see, is the 14th, and Joseph's streams the 21st. Okay, so this extractor brush here, okay, is going to allow us to pick up things and sculpt. And so what I want to do through this is when I morph this, okay, I've got some UVs on this model, and really the only thing I cared about was really the main part in the arm. So you can see this is the part that I'm worried about, okay? And what I want to highlight here, and what's really important, Number one, you can see what the bump's now doing for us. You can see where he put in certain wrinkles. So it gives me an understanding of where things are in space of the model from 3D to the 2D mode, in essence the UV mode. Okay? And number two, this is going to be able to give us the power to paint and sculpt across multiple UV shells or multiple mesh islands. Like, this is where it's a lot of fun. So let's make something for this jacket. All right, let's make some new stripes that go along the jacket. All right, so I'm just going to grab a simple plane here. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's make that a poly mesh. I'm going to turn on my polyframe mode by Shift F. Okay, and you have your polyframe mode here. All right, I see a question real quick. 3D art with Javad. What's your question for GoZ for Maya? All you have to do is click the GoZ button, and then it'll send everything over to Maya for you. Of course, there are preferences, though. Okay, so you might have to install first and pick your path to Maya. You got to let ZBrush know what path to Maya you want to go to. And ZBrush will send over the models. It'll send over texture maps that are in the texture map, displacement maps, normal maps. It'll send over creasing. It'll send over polygrouping. Okay. No, there's... Comics Legends asking a good question. Is there a way to have the UV view and 3D view at the same time in two separate windows? That's a yes and no. You could use split screen, but what you're looking for, no. You're not going to be able to have morph UV because this is a mesh that we're going to be sculpting on in essence. We're giving you the ability to sculpt and paint on a UV mode. It's actual mesh. It's not UVs that you're sculpting on. It's a mesh. Okay? So let's take this real quick. I'm going to switch to let's switch to ZModeler. I'm going to go ahead and let's grab polygroup it, and I'm going to say polyloop. It's fun to say polyloop. I'm going to come to this face. All right, what I'm looking at is that orange line that's going this way. Okay, and I'm going to say let's make a new polygroup there, and let's make a new one there, and let's make a new one there. Okay, so now I've just got two polygroups here. Okay, I'm going to divide up. Okay, and now I'm looking at just dividing up this mesh. I'm going to use masking. So I'm going to hold down the control key with gizmo mode turned on. So I've just switched to move mode with gizmo mode, and I'm just going to pull this out. Just create a little bit of an elevation there. Okay, so this is now got that pattern, this nice thing right here. It's just a simple lines, nothing crazy. And there's a reason why I'm doing this, because this is also what I'm about to show, what I really like about the new Morph UV ability, right? Because you got to remember, it's sculpting on the UVs themselves as well. So what I'm going to do now is switch to our extractor brush. So there's going to be 3 different extractor brushes. And again, I'm not going to dive deep into this because the other 2 guys, Solomon and Joseph, are going to dive a lot deeper into that. So here, I'm going to make my brush palette pop up higher so you guys can see what I'm selecting right here. Okay, so I'm just going to select this extractor brush. And what I want to do now is I want to tell ZBrush these strips of lines that I just made sculpturally, I want you to pull that up. Okay, this brush is going to allow us to pick up paint and sculpt, and on any mesh. It can be an arbitrary mesh. It doesn't matter if it's triangulated. It doesn't matter if it's decimated. It doesn't matter if it's divided. It doesn't matter if it's dynamesh. We're just picking up the sculpting information and the paint information. So right now, obviously, this is just sculpting information. All right. So my draw size is going to play a role on this. Okay. So depending on my draw size is what's going to be picked up. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the shortcut G, as in great. Okay, and then now I'm just going to click and start drawing, and you can see it starts just drawing out this, and you can see I've got an alpha automatically made for us. Okay, so this, what's nice about this is we have some controls here. So the from brush is the new feature here, which is part of the extracting. So reason why I'm calling this out, even though we have these extractor brushes, you technically can turn this feature on for any of the sculpting brushes, right? And you can use it. The extracting brushes we've just set up to work nicely, okay, in a certain way. So when you turn this on, you can see you have an alpha width and you have a blurring. So my alpha is 128, right? So you can see it's 128 by 120 because it depends upon what I'm drawing across. So what I want to do is I'm going to hit the G key again, right? I'm going to hold, and I'm going to make a straight line. So this is using sculpting abilities to start making this, okay? And I want to be able to use the ability to have not only just hitting G, right, and then just doing something like where I'm doing this waviness crazy thing, right? I want to have the ability to use the advantage of, okay, I'm going to hit G, I'm going to hold, I'm going to click and then hold the shift key, and what that opens up is this ability, which this is new from 4R8, and I want to draw across here, right? And then I'm making a nice alpha that's perfectly straight, right? So again, guys, you got to be thinking about this. This is not a new feature. This was added in 4R8, but I'm using it now to make a nice straight alpha because I want that alpha to be nice straight across my model, okay? So now I'm just pulling up some sculpting information with this extractor brush. Okay? Yeah, there's a butler behind me. So let's go back to the model. I like it. Right? And let's look again at this. All right? And I want to now start, say, putting that pattern and doing some things to this jacket. So let's get in morph mode. So what you got to think about here is if I'm trying to sculpt across this, right? And I want to make, let's say, that pattern now straight across the jacket here. And I also want it to go on the arms as well, right? And then maybe wherever, if I want to go on the back. But for the sake of just talking about this, I just want to go across the body and I want to go across the arms right now. So obviously, this is difficult to do right now in 3D mode because you got to sit there and try and say, all right, let's start sculpting across this and start sculpting. And then I got to turn this. This is in the way, right? I can't get in there. I got to be able to stop and start, right? Which is possible. It's definitely possible. But it's way faster and way easier now to just use the Morph UV mode. So I'm going to click on my Morph UV mode. We're going to look at this flat, okay? And this is the jacket, so I'm going to come, let's go this way with it. And in fact, I like to use the layer brush for this. This is a nice one for me. So I'm going to say, let's use the layer brush. Let's go grab that alpha, because that's all it was. I just created an alpha from the extractor. That's what the extractor brush is going to help us do. It's going to help us create alphas and textures. Okay, and now I'm going to say, in the stroke palette, I want this to roll on itself. Okay, so when I'm sculpting, I'm getting this pattern. Right, so here I'm going to go with a bigger brush size so you guys can really see this. Right, you can see I'm getting this pattern. And what I'm going to throw on top of this now is I'm going to throw RGB. So now I'm sculpting and painting. Okay? And what I want to do is make that intense a lot more, right? So then I have stuff like this now. So I am sculpting and painting, okay, on the model at the same time, but the morph version of the model. And yes, of course, morph UV will still work on lowest subdivision levels if you want to bring down something to the lowest subdivision. Whatever level I'm sitting at when you go to morph UV, that's what you're going to get in now the morph UV mode. Okay? So I'm painting and sculpting. So what we've also added that's new to this is going to be a big one, especially for those of you out there that make custom. Look up here, look up here, look up here, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? We've now added a little A button. Okay, so old school, well, it's not really old school. The version of ZBrush that you have, when you guys painted, right, with an alpha, so if I threw a texture on this, let's just throw a texture on here, and whoops. And then let's sculpt across this, okay? You can see the textures also being applied, right, and being rolled, and then the texture is being limited by the alpha, right? So there's parts here where the texture is not going. So now you guys will have the ability to actually turn that off, okay? And now when I go, you can see you get full texture and the full alpha at the same time. Let me rewind. Okay, so the A button now, this is what you're used to in previous versions of ZBrush, okay? When you sculpted, the texture, even though it's a full texture, I'm not getting the whole thing because it's limited by the alpha. Okay? But now I don't want that restriction, so we've added the ability to have the alpha turned off when you actually sculpt, and now we're getting this. So what I want to do is go, okay, turn this texture off, and I just want to use paint. I want the alpha ability. Okay, and just like I just did previously, people, I'm going to click, hold the shift key. Right? Think about this. And now I'm just going to sculpt right across. Boom, straight line. And keep in mind, I'm drawing a straight line across right now different parts of the body. Right? I'm sculpting across the back of him right now and along both sides. So, excuse me, sorry. It's a little intense, so I'm going to undo that. Let's drop my intensity to 5 because I don't want it to be super intense because I want to come across this area. And again, I'm just making a straight line, and boom. Then I'm going to come up here and say, hey, you know what? I want that on the arms. Here's my arms that I have. Okay, so I'm going to say, click here, come across, and then boom, I have that on the arms. So really quick, with 2 quick strokes, if we unmorph this now, I've actually got this racing stripe pattern going across multiple parts of the mesh, right? The Three Amigos, who brought it up? I love it. Love the Three Amigos. Okay, and so this is sculpted and paint. So I've got it on the arms now. I've got it on the chest. I got it on the back. And I'm just using the UV island shells, right, to give me that ability. And then because we're now in the morph, okay, ability, we got all the sculpting brushes at our disposal, right? So I switched to the layer brush because I like what the layer brush does in this mode. Okay, so we can also then say, you know, I'm sure plenty of times we want to do things like a logo, right? So let's import a logo here. Let's import a different one. So I'm just going to go to my import, and let's grab, why not? Let's grab the ZBrush logo here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, right in here, I'm going to flip it horizontal, okay, because I know I want the logo facing a certain way. George, you like that rewind thing? Okay. And then now I'm going to say, instead of doing a stroke this way, I'm going to do a drag rec, right? So it's a different stroke. And now I just come in here and say, where do I want that? I'm going to say right here. Say that looks good. Unwrap it. And then now I've got a logo on the shoulder. Right? Really quick. And of course, we can undo this, right? Come back to this and say, you know what? For this, and this is what I did in the video, there's no RGB. I just want straight up just the logo by itself. Something like that. And then morph out of that. And then now I'll have a subtle ZBrush Man logo right there. Right? So again, I saw the questions about how I'm doing this painting thing across. So here, let me do it again for you. Okay, so you guys can see. So let's do it up here on the shoulder part anyways, okay? So let me grab my alpha again that I made. Okay, yeah, that's the one I want, right? So this is just painting, right? So I want to paint and sculpt across this, right, is what I'm looking for to do. That's not my alpha. So I want to have the ability to start messing with this. And what all I'm doing is I'm clicking on the surface, right, which then is it's going to sculpt. Right? In this case, it's sculpting and painting. All right? And I'm going to just click, then hold the shift key. Okay? So my finger is still on shift, and my hand is still on my Cintiq. Right? So this allows me to use different angles. Okay? And if I let go of the shift key, right, but don't take my pen off, I now will sculpt a straight line and paint a straight line in this instance. Okay? And then your polyframe mode, this is what your polyframe mode looks like. It's going to be super dense for you guys to look at, but it's not anything spectacular. Right? I didn't really do anything to Jura's model, his model. I just took his jacket and I just laid out some UVs for the purpose of where I wanted to put some striping. Right? So this has only got a couple subdivision levels as well. Right? So again, we're working on something that does have multiple subdivision levels, and it's just got 3 levels. Okay, so you can see what I'm working with here, right? It's just something pretty simple. Of course, I can keep dividing up if I wanted to. We could remesh it if I want to, but I didn't need to, right? And then now if we turn everything on here, right? This is what we got, right? So then this worked really well. See, it didn't touch this part because that was a different UV island shell. It didn't touch this part where the zippers are because that was a different UV island shell. I have it stopping so it doesn't touch any of this right here, right? Because those are different shells. So this gives us this amazing ability now to sculpt and paint across multiple pieces of one mesh. And then, like I was highlighting, I can make super straight lines. I can make angular lines and things like that. Okay? So it'll work really well for some very crazy fun stuff. Okay? So that's your Morph UV, right? There's some 2 examples for you to really see about using it with patterns and then using it across multiple shells. Okay? I want to move on here, right, to something that is also for printing. Okay, so I'm going to pull up John Brown's model here. Hold on a second. Yeah, there you are. Okay, so this is a model, and let's think about this for printing purposes, right? So John Brown is a clay sculptor, and he teaches at Gnomon School, so he does pieces like this. He's a fine artist, right? He's an artist that has been doing this for years. He's worked in the film industry. So he's working on projects where he also teaches, and he's done a planar studies. And what he's doing is he now wants to mass produce them. So John Brown is someone that's, he's a clay guy to start, right? And he's really comfortable in clay, and he does stuff in clay. But then we want to 3D print it, and we want to do more with it and make different sizes as an example, right? And mass produce it. So this particular piece, that's what he wants to do. So this is John Brown's website, figuresinfocus.com. Okay, he wants to take this piece and he wants to mass produce it. So we scanned his original sculpt, brought it in ZBrush, and now I have it in ZBrush, and I want to make an 8-inch. I want to make a 16-inch. I want to make a 36-inch. You have that ability now because we have a digital file, right? So when we're going to stuff and do 3D printing, okay, GoZ will work with the new version 3D Art, and it works with all previous versions as well. There's a cutoff for Maya, though. It depends on the version of Maya you're in. It's only going to work all the way back only to 2016 Maya. So if you have anything earlier than Maya 2016, GoZ is no longer going to work. You would have to upgrade Maya. So I want to be able to take this model, and I want to do a test. And I want to do things like, okay, I need to make sure that when we make a mold of this, that this can actually be pulled out of the mold. Right? So this is where drafting is going to come into play. So I'm going to dock our transform palette here. Okay? And this is multiple meshes. Okay? And we've got a mesh that's ready for 3D printing. In essence, it's got all the keying parts that we need, right? And we can start manipulating and messing with this. So you can see they all got different parts to it. Right? It's ready to go. Print out. And then it all will fit together. So you're printing this in pieces. Okay, but what you want to make, okay, to this is making sure that, like I said, this pull out with the mold. So what we've added now here is draft analysis. Okay, so we're going to have the ability now, in Transform, we've got a draft analysis button. Okay, so I'm going to click this, and now you're going to see the model turn green. It's going to come out of perspective mode. And if I rotate this, you're going to see there's red and green. If we get up close in here, right, you're going to see that it's also got some yellow going through there, right? So looking at these models, right, I want to be able to just see, right, what I'm doing in here. Okay? So where it's red is a problem area, in essence. Okay? That's an area that could be a problem for us. And I'm going to switch to my standard brush. Okay? And what I want to do over here is I want to say, well, what is the draft angle that the machine is allowed? Okay? And people are going to use this not for just only when they're making a mold, but if you've ever done something, say, with a CNC machine, you got a bit that's just going around and moving like this. They have a limitation to how much it can turn, right? So it can't just, can't take this and then all of a sudden just make a drastic right, do this drastic, say drastic right angle 80 degree like this. It's going to be hard to go around that bend right there or to get up in a pocket, right? So then there's a certain draft angle that that bit can also handle. So that's where this feature is also to come in handy. So I'm going to put mine at a 4 degree. So I'm going to put this to 4, okay? And then I'm going to say, well, what way am I going to say maybe pull this mold? I'm going to say, well, I'm going to make a 2-part mold of him. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say now set direction. What that's done now is, based upon my camera plane, I'm setting how that direction of that mold would be for us. So now if I rotate around, right, you can see I've got the red, the green, and everything in here. Now, what's nice about this is real time. Okay, so what I mean by that is, as an artist, I can see I got red in here. I can say, well, let me just come and start smoothing this. Now, right now, I'm just using a simple smoothing brush, right? And again, this is ready for a print as well, right? So I can come in here and just start smoothing things out, right? And you can watch things change. So that's all I'm trying to do is say, you know what, this has got to get smoothed out a little bit more. Yellow is more of a caution. It's probably okay, but I can keep smoothing back until this all goes green, right? So obviously, I'm doing this as an artist until I see green everywhere, right? So if I can come to the arm, right? I know now that's not going to be a problem area. Okay, and then also with this as an artist, I want to go and start touching things up, right? Say I want to make a little bit more of a deeper cut in here, or maybe I want to come across this in here and start coming through here. You can see as I sculpt, it's updating, right? So this is the real-time part of this. So I can say, okay, that's safe, that's not. So okay, I got to dial this back. Boom. And now I know that stroke right there is now safe for the drafting, right? So this is all happening in real time, which is really nice. Be able to, as an artist, just go through and just touch up these pieces, smooth it out a little bit maybe, or add some stroke and making sure that I get what I'm looking for, right? So I have the Damien standard. I can say, again, click Shift key, and then I held the Alt key on top of that to really make that peak stand out. And you can see that this is fine. I don't have to worry about, okay, when it gets to production, that this stroke that I just made is going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem because I'm analyzing it right now on the fly with the draft. Okay? So this is giving us the ability. So green is obviously the good. The red is the bad. Well, red is fine for the back, right? And yellow is cautionary. Like, that could be some troublesome. In many cases, you might be all right with just the yellow. So this is all done in real time. So what we've also done with this is there are times where maybe as an artist, I want to use something maybe like this for sculpting purposes. Okay? So down here, as we come through here in our tool palette, right, in the masking, we've got a from draft. And what's nice about this is I've already set my draft angle and I've already set my direction. So because I've set it once now with the real-time one, you can see it is already set in here for the masking version. Okay, so now when I hit mask by draft, it's now doing a draft. But what's different about this one is this is doing it based upon occlusion. So this is even more what's the word I'm looking for, I guess, detailed or specific, right? It's looking for actual meshes that are even blocking, right? So in the real-time one, this pull wouldn't be a problem in the sense that it's analyzing each of the features themselves, right? And then it's drafting. So right now, I'm just looking at only this piece, right? And you can see it's doing a masking draft basically, because maybe through here, maybe I want to bump this up a little bit more, and I can use the draft, right, to do this. And of course, we can blur this, and then I'll switch to one of our sculpting brushes, right, and then just start sculpting that line. So if we hide our mask, right there is that draft line that was made from the mask, right? So I've had times where this could be very handy. So Control H is hiding my mask, which is just clicking this. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just using masking now to do this, right? So the back is unmasked and the front is masked, and then it's using my angle to do that, right? So if I want to now say a mask from a different angle, say like this, I'd say set direction now, and then mask by draft. Then now it's looking this direction, right, on the body, so it's coming across the shoulders instead of looking face forward, right? And that's what it's doing, right? So it's looking at these 4 million polygons and then applying a mask based upon that. So the previous one was real time, okay? This is not real time because it's making a mask, and I want to be able to use the mask. And you see the occlusion part right here. So you can see this portion of that sculpt is blocking this, so then there's no mask in there. That's the difference, right? And you see the pectoralis in here. See, it's blocking that part right there, right? So this peak here is blocking that so it doesn't get a mask there. Okay? So this would be a great way to do this. Right? No, you can't create subfolders if that's what you're asking within a folders. It's just, so when you create a folder like I have here, so like this one's ready for print, and then torso with keys, you can't put another folder within this folder. No, if that's what you're asking. Okay, so what you're also going to be able to do, which could come in handy for you, is polypaint. So you can see there's a from draft here as well. And you can see that I've got the same settings. So these settings are carrying across just in multiple ways. So I can say from draft, and now this is going to apply the polypaint red and green and yellow. Okay, and then they have a visual painted version because maybe you want to get that paint information also out into other external applications as well, because our STL, our OBJ, and FBX will send out vertex color. And you can see the green is coming this way because if you remember, I had changed my set direction. This is a prime example showing you once I've set the direction once, I don't have to go set it again. And so we had set, I remember if I changed, I set from that. And then of course now in the green paint, you have that and then the red. This is not real time, and this is using a little bit different algorithm. Okay? So this has the ability to allow for either by paint, by mask, and then there's of course real-time drafting, right? So if we, that's the one that, you know, it's going to be very crucial because I want to be able to in real time see what's going on with my draft, right? And I can change my draft angles on the fly, right? And go maybe from the top and then see that is happening on real time, and I can look and see where I might have problematic issues for the draft. Right? And then so for people like Nick who's colorblind, you could do it by the poly paint and then go do a color adjust and adjust it to the colors that you can see now. Right? That sticks. No, so currently you can't adjust the drafting colors. No. But you could do what I said, apply by paint and then do the color adjust. Yes, 3D art, the GoZ Maya will work with 2020. There's for ZBrush 2020, GoZ for Maya will still work. We haven't changed anything. The only thing that we change is on Maya's side if something changed. Okay, and when you guys upgrade, okay, to 2020, you can still keep 2019 also on your machines, everybody. You don't have to delete 2019. You can keep both on your machines. It's going to use the exact same activation to activate anyways. Right? So once you guys download 2020, install it, 2020 will already be activated. Okay? So there's your draft analysis. Okay? So there's the ability to looking at our draft. So let's look at now some other features here. Let's look at, say, the silhouette. So this is going to be nice. I know there's definitely some artists out there. You know, Cesar de Gaulle Jr. comes to mind for me. Okay, that uses this to, you know, when you're thinking of a character and something you want to make. I don't know. Like, for example, in this case, let's take this dog. Dag. Just take the dag. Right? And I don't want any projection. Let's give him a little more resolution. There you go. Okay. And I'm going to switch to, say, the snake hook. Let's go to the snake hook, and I'm going to throw on Sculptress Pro mode here. All right. And then now, what we have is I can see the silhouette. So as I'm moving here, I can see up here in my upper corner here the silhouette. So here, I got to move me again. Hold on. Let me move me back down here in the corner. Okay, so as I rotate, you can see that is updating. What this is now is called thumbnail. Right? So right here, there's going to be a new menu called thumbnail. So you don't have to look at it in a silhouette. You can also see the model, right, as it's also rendered here. Right? You have a magnifier, so you kind of look at something pixeled. Hi, Elvis. So you can see what that's doing there, right? But you can also see you can size it up, size it down, right? So you can go up to 512. And then I'm in silhouette mode. And then thumbnail, of course, is just turning it on and off. You can even export the images. You can even say change the color. And you can see you can have that colors whatever you want. So it's going to pick the complementary color. So if I'm in green, it's picking across, right? It's picking the purple. If I go to blue, then it picks the red. So of course, if I pick white, it picks black. If I'm picking black, it puts white as the back, right? So it's swapping them, right? So black becomes a background. Okay, so you can just, again, click and drag and rainbow colors. So you decide what you want. Now, this is where something like using Sculptress Pro is going to be really nice. You can say, I want to make some kind of new character. So I'm going to smooth out the tail, kind of get rid of that. Let's smooth back the ears. You know what? Let's make sure I'm in symmetry mode. Let's maybe do something like that. Let's smooth that snout back a little bit. Let's go ahead. I'm in snake hook. Let's put a little bump there. And we have the ability now that I'm looking at the model here, right? And the silhouette. So I can, of course, switch to the material. So just for the sake of, because you guys love it, red wax, okay? You can see I can be looking at the model still in 3D mode and seeing my silhouette for the purpose of as an artist sculpting. So now let's go to the move brush. Right, and then I'm going to start moving this, make it have a longer neck. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Oh no, not that much. Let's do a little something like that. Okay, I'm going to switch to the front. Let's go back to the snake hook. Right, and then I'm going to say symmetrical, and then just start pulling on this, and then I can say, all right, let's go smaller, and just start making some kind of antler design, and I'm seeing everything. Right, in a silhouette form. Let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of this chunk maybe. Just completely get rid of it. Okay, now let's switch. In the spirit of Christmas, it's a reindeer creature. Right, and I'm just now looking at, I'm not even myself personally, I'm not really even looking here anymore. I'm looking over here now. I'm just looking to see what I can get silhouette-wise and maybe something that I would like. Right, I don't want that. Let's pull a little bit more out. Like that. Right? Let's go ahead and also, I like to use, in something like this, maybe have some fun with this. We can use some spiraling. Let's spiral this up. Oh, yeah. There we go. Some spirals. Yeah, there. Happy little spirals. Let's get rid of this. And then now let's spiral that. Yeah, there. Hey, what's it look like with someone on his neck? Right? And I'm just looking at, again, over here. So this is what the silhouette view is going to allow us to do. It's going to be extremely helpful for to just quickly blocking out something and seeing what I want. You know, what if I get rid of the legs completely in the back, get rid of the legs in the front? What does that look like? Now it's just a disaster. It's a blob head deer thing. Okay? Yeah, a moose would be good. For sure. Doing a moose would be better. Start blocking something out, right? And start working on this, switching to maybe some inflating. And, you know, if it's a moose, it's got to have a little bit bigger legs than what a dog does. And I'm looking at it over here. Maybe a little bit bigger belly. Let's look from this. Bigger belly this way. Bigger belly that way, right? And then this is where, sorry to take some of your thunder. This is where now depth, you have an infinite depth ability now. Okay, so when I sculpt here, see it's happening across the whole creature. Right, so as an example, if I sculpt down here, the feet, see the back feet are also inflating. Even though symmetrically I'm only going from here to here, but when I start doing this and then see start smoothing, it's also happening back here as well, right? So as I inflate that, that's getting inflated, right? So if I inflate right here, it's inflating all the way across. Okay, I don't want to take too much away from what Joseph's also going to show. He's going to go way a lot more in depth on the 21st, and so is Solomon. He's going to go more depth on this feature. That is just ugly. Okay, so, but this is obviously what we're going to do with the silhouette. You can have a lot of fun with this, and as an artist, I can kind of use this as a way to guide me to where I'm trying to get to, right? And that's what you have right in there, okay? And I can say, all right, this is just a disaster now. Let's get rid of that head completely, right? Yes, there, happy little trees, right? And then this is where you guys can start having fun and grabbing pieces. Yeah, why not? Let's, throw a female head on there. Yes. Yes! I'm making art! Modern art, baby. Modern art. Don't laugh. It's... Right, and then Dynamesh that, and then what does that look like? I don't know, maybe we're making the Thing 3 right now. Okay, so that's pretty much silhouette view for you guys. And having the ability to just quickly make changes and adjustments and be able to look at the silhouette. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off for now. And now let's take a look at this cam view up here now as well. All right, so again, this is giving us the ability. I'm going to pull up a different model here. Let's pull up another model from Jonas. I'm not saying the name correct already. I know that. All right, so here's another model. Right, and you can see we're looking at the front of him right now currently, which now the cam view is also showing that. So there are settings in the preference here for cam view. Right, and you can see we can adjust the size of this if we want as well. Okay, you can turn it on and off, of course. And then there are different ones that are going to be shipped with ZBrush. So as you rotate your model, that's going to update. So here's one that's literally a camera. Okay, and that red, blue, and green is playing a role. We're going to start talking about that. So there are default ones that ship with here that you guys can use. There's some nice skull ones in here, and you're going to be able to make your own as well. Okay, so obviously the first thing you can see as I rotate, this is telling me where the model's sitting in the world, what's relevant to the world. Okay, so he was facing, this is saying you should be looking at the face of a model, which I am looking at the face of the model. So that's what this cam view is telling you. This is saying the face of the model is what you should be seeing, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm now going to also be able to come over here and snap to different degree angles now. So I can use, if I click on the actual cam view itself, okay, and then I'm snapping to the closest 45-degree angle. So now I can use this cam view to snap certain angles. Yes, you're going to be able to save out your own and have your own startup. In fact, whatever one you have selected here, when you save your UI, it automatically remembers it and keeps it as your default. Okay, so now I can have snapping ability. So I'm using the actual cam view to rotate. Okay, and then of course these arrows and these colors are allowing me to say I want to look at the front and look at the back. Front, back. So this is snapping orthographic views. All right, so I'm clicking on this blue circle. Okay, so this pure blue, and it's got to be pure blue when I make these, is telling ZBrush when it sees pure blue, you're telling it to flip the front and back. Green is top and bottom, of course, because that's relating to X, Y, and Z, everybody. That's what this is relating to. And then, of course, red is the left and right side. So you can either do something like this where you can click on these. So, for example, we go to a different one, right, like this camera one. So what I did for this is instead of having arrows, I modeled a camera, and then I just colorize things on the camera. So if I want to see the front, I click that, it's the front, click to the back. And the way I made this, I can still right here, I can click on the top, I can still click from the right to the left, right, bottom, top, right, and then I can still rotate it. So I put the colors on the camera itself. So you can see some of these are going to have that, right? See, like this, it's colorized, right? And I can actually, at any view in this cube, click to any orthographic view that I want to. So all you do is got to click on the blue once and click on it again, and it'll swap between the front and back. Same thing for the reds. You click on the red once, clicking on it again, it'll swap, and the greens do the same thing. Click on it once and click on it again, and it'll swap them. Okay? So pure green, and what I mean by pure green, people, is when you come over here, right? The RGBs here. So in essence, this. So that's pure green, right? That's the Y. So when I go make a custom one, if I have any pure green color on it, that actually can be used as a point of interest for the cam view to swap between things in here. Okay? So to create your own is pretty simple. Okay? In the sense that all you have to do is put your model where you want it, right? And you click this Make Cam View. Right? And then ZBrush is going to go through all the views automatically for you. And then it's going to plop it up. And then I'll have a new cam view in the top right. Okay? And then there you go. Now, this is taking the document as well. Because what it's doing, you've noticed, is actually creating an image. Right? And there's multiple images of multiple views here. So whatever's in the document is what's getting picked up. Okay? So if I change, for example, my document color here to white, you can see the cam view's got like a gray box happening here, right? Because when I picked it up, I was picking up, all right, the background color information as well. Okay, if that makes sense to y'all. Okay, so as an example, let me actually load, I'm going to load my default cam view one that I personally made when I was making these. Let me see where I have it. I could have swore. Oh, it's on my other computer. I wasn't on this computer, sorry. So what you could do, everybody, is the first thing I like to do is I make my background pure black. Okay, because pure black, all right, is transparent. Okay, so now that I have this, if I do now the cam view again, right, it's doing the same thing, but when it makes the cam view in the top, all you're going to have now is just the model, right? So if I change my document color again, you can see it's just the model. So I can go crazy with this, right? Any color I want. So if you want this ability where it's kind of more like the character or whatever you're making is masked out, okay, then you would want to have that, right? And then because it's grabbing document space, right, you're going to want to be able to possibly also think about that because it's picking up the document. So me, right, just like that model with that camera, I just made parts that were pure red, pure green, or you guys can just make other pieces of geometry, right? I can grab this circular piece, right? And I can say, use this, and I'm going to say, I want this thing, right, to be the pure blue. So I'm going to go to color, and then I'm going to say red down all the way, green down all the way, and now it's the pure blue, right? And then I'm going to say, I'm going to use this as a point of interest, and then I just snapshot that to the document, right? Because it's going to be picking up that document when it does this cam view, right? So, and then snapshotting to the document is Shift S. The same as going to transform and clicking on that little camera there. So in essence, you guys can put stuff all over the document inside of ZBrush, or the reason why we were doing this as an image base is you guys can then export these images and take them into another external application, whether it be Photoshop, Paint, or whatever you do, and do stuff in there if you want to. And then that can be loaded in the folder for cam view. And then you would cycle through these here. Once it's put it in the folder, it'll cycle through these. And now that's how you can start also creating your own custom cam view. Okay? So it's just a simple little feature, but you know, it's a nice feature to have now. And there's the benefits of being able to snap to the closest 45 degrees and snapping orthographic view. Okay? So moving on, let's load another model here. So let me let's grab this guy. Okay, this is done by Polygon. Okay, so let's just take a look at this and get a general idea here of what we're looking at here. All right. So I'm going to turn off all poly paint. So let's open this. Oops. Open the folder up. Let's just look at the model like this. And make it a little bit darker so it looks a little better on your guys' stream. Here, let's pick something that's got some speck in it. There we go. That way you guys can visually see what's going on here. All right, so this is where the undo, okay? Yes, you can do custom images for the cam view. Absolutely, if you wanted to. 100%. It's just an image, right? So you can bring that image in, and it just gets stored in the folder. Here, let me show you I'll show you quickly the folder. Let me get it in my browser here. Hold on. Let me get to the program. Okay, so when you guys get 2020, okay, you're going to have a folder structure, obviously. Okay, and through here, there's a Z Startup, and now there's a Cam View folder. And then here's all the defaults that are going to be shipping with 2020. And then to make the default, right, all you got to do is just rename it to default. Right, so this is the planar head is the default one. So if you don't want that anymore, I would rename this to planar, bring your PSD file in, and then rename it default, and you're good to go. Okay, that's all you got to do. You're just going to be putting in the Z Startup and Cam View folders of the 2020. 2020! 2020. 20. Barbara Walters. I can't do the Barbara Walters. 2020. I can do Sylvester. 2020. All right, so the nice thing about the history is, let me just look at this, right? This model, right, that Polygon did, obviously we did this in stages. As an artist, you make the base mesh first, then he put all this beautiful detailing in here with the lion head and all the calligraphy, and then he's like, hey, I need it damaged, right? So this is something else where the history brush is going to be beneficial. Maybe you're art director, or you look at it again, you're going, hey, you know what? This is too much damage, or it's not working. This is where the history recall brush is going to come to our benefit. So because we have history, right? I'm going to switch to that brush. I don't want any of this. I can go back in the undos, right? And look at this, right? And see if I have any undos without any noise, right? Which I don't. So I'm going to load the model again here, okay? So that we can look at this model and see in its beginning stages of what he did exactly here. And I'm going to walk through this. So this particular one that I have doesn't have any undo. So this is the point again where I stressed in the beginning, difference between saving a project and saving a tool, right? Because you want to be able to save undos, then you need to save a project, okay? Tools do not have undos. Okay, so we are going to look at this model, okay, and look at this where he doesn't have an undos. This is just a tool, okay? So in his case, he was smart about this, and he made layers, right? So he had the ability for him to say, hey, if I don't like any more of that damage, I can just turn off the damage, and now I have this, right? And then he can turn the damage back on if he wants to. So it's an on and off state, right? So we might not all have this ability where we've done this, right? So as we're sculpting along here, I'm going to say, all right, let's do this. Let's just bake everything in. Let's do it more in the sense where I know someone like me maybe didn't use the layers, right? So now I've got this model where I've been sculpting, but at least I have some undo history. And let's go again. Let's just turn off the poly paint here. Let's go with this again. Maybe it's a little too dark on your guys' stream. There you go. That's better. Okay, so looking at this piece, that on and off I've done, okay, has been doing undos. Like I've been doing undos here, right? It's been making undos. So there's going to be a point of undo, right, where it's clean again, right? And so you got to think about as an artist, as you're sculpting along here, you're going to have hundreds of undos, thousands of undos, right? And there's going to be times where maybe you're putting things like I'm putting rips in the clothes, and then you come back and look at it like 3 days later or the next day, and it's not quite working. If you have your undos, you're going to be able to do what I'm about to do right now. So I have the undo version where it's got all the sculpted detail and the damage, okay? And then I have the detail where I want to go, okay, I want this, and maybe push back the damage a little bit or erase it in certain areas, okay? So I want to have the ability to look at this and go, okay, there's different views here. And I'm going to say, okay, this one, I'm going to mark that one. Okay? So now I got a version that's clean, and looking at just only Z adding, okay? I'm going to bake all the layers. Okay? I'm going to look at this, and you can see in this case, I'm actually bringing back the damage. Right? So I'm brushing in now. So we can go a little bit bigger brush size so you guys can see. Right? So now maybe one side's damaged and the other side is not. Right? And what I'm doing is I'm sculpting here. I'm creating undos, but it's looking way back at that beginning one. Right? So it's looking from the point I'm at now and to the point I'm at before. And it crash. Save my project. Okay, so it gives me the ability to kind of work in a backward state, or in this case, I was working kind of in a forward state. I had the mesh when it was nice and clean, and then I had the mesh when it was all damaged. So again, Solomon and Joseph are going to dive deeper into this with their streams. Okay, so the history brush, I've showed it by using with paint. I've showed it use it for making sculptural changes. Okay, so let me just wait for this to finish saving, and I'll come back in. So let me catch up with some of these questions in here that I've been missing. Those guys have been funneling through here. So again, yes, as far again as Peel UV, again, it's still in development. So that's all I can say about the Peel UV. Okay, I see a question. Is there a point to the UV surface noise versus Morph UV? It's, in essence, you're doing pretty much the same thing, but you're still on a 3D model, right? The Morph UV part, I'm looking at it flat, right? I'm seeing it just flat and dandy, right? So here, let me kill this. Sorry. I don't want to wait for this to save. I'm going to just kill this. I don't want to wait. I'm impatient. It's a big file. Okay, so back to that question. Surface noise has UV ability, but again, you're looking at the 3D mesh where what I was doing is I was able to sculpt across and paint across flat purposes, right? So it can come in handy for me to look at that. So that works as well for you too, to use it in the surf. So for those that don't know, in the surface, in the noise, that particular person is bringing up, there's a UV option right here. Okay, and then the noise gets applied based upon the surface. But you could also just morph UV and apply the noise that way as well. Is it compared to models in world space, meaning a rotated model at some point in the undo history? Will it not line up with the spot on the model you were trying to edit later in history? So, well, if you're moving a model, right, if I'm understanding your question, if I'm moving a model in space, whoops, not with symmetry on, right, there's an undo happening, right? But those vertex points are moving somewhere else, right? So there's a movement where they used to be sitting here, and now they're sitting here, right? So that undo history, right, is a different point in the origin of the world, right? So that will play a part, of course, because if you're going to try and use the undo history brush, you're using undo history. And if you're making a controlled selection on this point, the vertex points are sitting here, but then now you're way over here. That's, of course, going to make a difference. Oh, Shane, you just joined us? You don't want to know what I did to your model. It was ugly. Okay, does that answer that question? So if you sculpting on the flat surface with the Morph UV ability, so here since Shane came in again, let's load Shane's model in here again. Hold on. Let me So we have a model that has UVs on it. Okay, so Shane, I think you were probably using, I'm going to throw a dart at it, skin shade 4, so it's nice and bright. Okay, so I've got the body selected, right? So when you're morphing this, we're now looking at the UV space, but we're giving you a 3D model representation, in essence, if you think about it, of that space, right? So when I go and sculpt across this, so we'll just use clay buildup, right? I'm sculpting across, so if I want to put a belt across there, right? This is what the benefit is. Think about it. If I want to put a belt, it's now easier to just click, hold the shift key if I wanted to, and draw a straight line across there, and I'm getting a straight line, right? I can sculpt inward if I want to as well. Okay, so this is going to be more beneficial for me. Say I want to come across like that. That's an easier stroke to make, right? And then now you can use other sculpting features. I can use things like lazy mouse, and I can do backtrack, and I can do a path. So I can actually create a path and then sculpt across that path, right? So for example, this is doing this, right? And then it comes across that path again, right? So it's creating that path. So when I unmorph it, you can see where it's going across. And you can see that would have been very difficult to do in the 3D state. You can see I want to like across inside the armpit. I'm going inside the arm. Like you're not going to be able to sculpt inside of there without using visibility, right? So that's one of the things that the Morph UV is also going to help with, is having the ability to you to sculpt in tight areas, sculpt across areas, right? And doing what you want, right? So for me, if we go back and again look, go undo, we're going to get back to the undo state eventually of this, right? So this is another UV shell. So this is an internal surface. So he's got a shell, so he's got an inside surface. So I could sculpt across both, right? And that's just a stroke going across both. So when I unwrap this, not only is it going to go on the outside, but I was putting it also on the inside. So you can see he's got an inside surface in here. And you can see right there, it's going on the inside as well, right? Just another advantage to having this. And then this has subdivision levels. So I'm sculpting on multiple subdivision levels as well. You can't do this in 2019 3D art. This is a new feature. You can morph it, but that's it. And there's some old tricks that you can do, but you can't sculpt and paint on it and have it retain. Okay? So this is, again, the beauty. This is why this feature excites me very much in the sense of thinking about times where I've wanted to sculpt in hard areas or sculpt a perfect line across something. Think about even hard surface where you want to have a nice line that has different angles, right? Because this feature, again, that I'm using, is, that looks funny, is coming across. Let's say maybe I want to put a line through here. Right? So let's say I want to now use, say, the chisel brushes, right? Because I like what the chisel brush does, like that, right? See, that's a lot easier to do, right? To create that line, it's just easier for me to, more natural for me to just flick my wrist like this, okay? But I could also, then again, introducing, doing stuff like doing this, and then maybe put an angle like that. And then like this, and then maybe do like that, right? I'm doing different angles. So here, let me adjust this brush to not have such a strong lazy radius, so you guys can really see what's going on here. I'm going to knock down that lazy radius, right? Because then what I can do is, again, make the lines, right? And now I can literally go up the model like this, and think about trying to do this in a 3D space. It's going to be a lot more difficult, right? And so when I unmorph this, see, it's going up the body now with all those angles in it, all the way around inside the armpit there, and coming back down the arm, right? This is why I put a smile on my face. I was like, yes, yes. Now, for working with UDIMs, you'll have to look at one UDIM space at a time. Because currently ZBrush stacks the UDIMs on top of each other. So if you're going to use UDIMs, you got to look at the UDIM space at times. So you'd want to use something like in here. There's UV groups, and there's UV groups with UV. So UV groups for your UDIMs, UV groups will be UDIMs and UV shell islands as well. So you can click this button, right? So if we look at this, so this is the painting, right? If I click UV groups, right, you're getting a polygroup. If I click this, so you're getting now different polygroups based upon UV islands, right? So the green, and then this has a group, and then this has a group. So UV groups looks at UDIMs. Okay, UV groups looks at UDIMs and UV shells. So because this whole model is sitting in one UDIM, clicking this will give me the different polygroups, right? So when you look at this then flatten and morph, you guys can see the different polygroups here. Let me turn off the color so you guys can see the different, and let me turn off the line so you guys can see the different polygrouping. Right, and so in essence, this is how I would do it with UDIMs. I'd select UDIM space at one UV dim space at a time to paint across. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. So I'm Christmas in November. I like it. I like it, Travis. So I'm pretty much done with my stream. Again, though, I want to highlight before I go, because people are wondering when's this coming out. And again, Polygon. This was Polygon's information that I pulled up that night. I was messing around with that night. So there's his art station. And of course, he made a awesome tutorial on ZBrush Central here. So his name's also Polygon on ZBrush Central. So here's the model that I was pulling up. He made a great tutorial. Like, think about all this where he's laying all these things out now. You can now use Morph UV to do certain patterns and things like that. Okay? So on top of this, please remember, visiting right now, okay, 2020 is going to be a free upgrade to all registered users. Okay? So there is a features page right now highlighting the features and some things I've spent time with, which is pixologic.com/features. You can scroll down and you'll see again, and you can see, and this is a great video Michael Popovich did during beta testing of him using a lot of the new features to do all this, right? And these are highlighting some features and showing things. So please visit this page and get a little more information. There's videos here, so if you see it in action, there's some videos there to recapture. Again, Solomon and Joseph will be streaming the next 2 weeks. Solomon's going next Thursday at 11. Joseph's going the following Thursday at 11. They're going to be diving deeper into other features that I did not dive deep into and still visiting other features. We also have a special 2020 promotion happening. So for those that currently do not own ZBrush, now's the time if you want to. So right now, buying the ZBrush 2019 is $7.95, and yes, of course, you'll be upgraded to 2020 for free. If you want to go the subscription route, we're giving a promotional price on the first payment of 6 months. We're giving you $40 off, so you get it for $139.95, and then the following 6 month subscription would be $179.95, and then month-to-month subscription, we're giving you the first month for $29.95, and thereafter it's $39.95. If you're a ZBrush core person that's been watching this and you want to upgrade to ZBrush, we're giving it another $50 on top of the $100 you already get off. So you're getting $150 off. The full version of ZBrush you're getting for $745. So for those that own ZBrush, here's an opportunity to jump in. For existing users, okay, you're just going to get, again, a free upgrade. Okay, so I saw it's been put in the chat. So there's your link to that. Let me see if there's any last minute questions before we call it a stream. Again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in more, okay? And looking at what Solomon and Joseph will be sharing. Same bat channel, same bat time. Just not annoying bad jokes. So 2020 again will be available next Tuesday, November 12th is when that'll be available for you. You guys, those existing users, you'll just download the installer And then once it's installed, it already will be activated. It'll be using your current serial number and your current licensing of 2019 or 2018. So you'd have at least have version 2018 and up for it to automatically be activated. Okay, so any last minute questions or anything from somebody? I'm looking through here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you again for tuning in. Please stick around for the streams next that are happening still on ZBrush Live. And also the streams coming up again by Joseph and Solomon Blair. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you enjoy 2020. I'll be seeing you again. I'll be streaming on a regular, of course, on our channel here. I appreciate you watching. Have a great evening for those in other parts of the world that it's late night right now. For those in the afternoon, have a great one. Go Red Wings. Thanks, Dougie. They're not doing too well. It's rebuilding time. It's big time rebuilding time for those Red Wings. For those that don't know, that's a hockey reference. Okay, so have a wonderful evening. Thank you for tuning. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.